Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager. This is episode 39. We're coming off of our first win now for Williams, right? This is our Return to Glory series. It's not just a team that's at the back, it's a team that had success. Lots of it. Multiple championships, plenty of wins, plenty of history. It's just been a while. Now, getting that win, that's just the first step. It's been a decade since they've had a win. We've now taken care of that. We've checked that one off the list. Now, competing for a championship is the next one. It's been 2 decades since they've done that, and we're not competing this year for a championship, so we've still got some work to do. Winning a championship, that's 2.5 decades since they've managed to do that. Now, first off, sorry about the lighting. It's very early in the morning. Having a very busy week still ahead of me, and just had a crazy weekend. Used a sod cutter and ripped out my entire yard over the weekend, and now I need to get all of the sod out throughout the week, load by load, and do some work and lay a new lawn. Fun stuff. Anyway, the game. Dirk de Beer, the one staff member that we changed. The weakest one on our staff became the strongest one on our staff. The others are still on the weaker side, but they're not crazy weak. The upgrades are expensive, therefore we kind of settled on, hey, let's do the one, right? Flip that, raise the average, and you're in better shape. Well, he's an 84 overall now, so he's getting better and better. I think he was an 82 when we brought him on. You can see here from his base attributes, everything is between an 81 and 87, so he's quite balanced. That's the other thing I really like about him, is he's providing us a lot across the board. Now, in the what to do department, now that we've got to win, now that we're turning that corner and entering a new phase, are there any changes that we need to be making? Let's analyze that briefly before we get into the Dutch Grand Prix in Zandvoort. First off, the weakest staff member now is our technical chief, and at a 75, there's definitely room for improvement. However, across the board, there's not a lot available to us, and quite expensive, and the best ones don't want to work for us. Therefore, we're going to stay put. The other conversation then becomes, of course, Albon is just keeping the seat warm for Jack Doohan until he's ready to go. And, arguably, if Pourchaire is ready to go, it just won a race as a 75 overall, arguably we could get Jack Doohan in right now. He's better than Pourchaire, at least on paper overall. Now, in that direct head-to-head comparison, of course, Doohan's major issue is his smoothness. We've already picked up about 10 points. He's up to a 56 now. I think he started at about a 45. So we're all 11 points that we've picked up for Doohan then have gone to that. And he's done that in well under one season. I mean, he's... When did we bring him in? No. Okay, it was December 31st, right, when we signed Doohan. So, plus 11 in 9 months. 8 months, really. It's pretty good. I mean, he's gaining more than a point per month. And considering, the pace is already where it needs to be, it's equivalent to Albon, and Pourchaire's almost there now. The consistency, the accuracy is nice. The control is there. It's really just that smoothness. Now, adaptability means poor in the rain, but all three of my drivers are actually poor in the rain. The only reason why we keep having success in the rain, I don't think it's the AI. It's the AI and me having the tactical awareness to maximize the conditions, the race conditions. For reference, I did the same thing in Motorsport Manager. I think I just have a knack for it. I don't think everybody's going to be on top of it in the same sort of way. I had one total blunder with it to learn, and then I had one that didn't go as well as it could have gone. I mean, I made a tactical call, and it didn't quite pan out. It didn't necessarily hurt us either. I mean, it was almost a wash. But for the most part, I've been making the right calls in the rain that have maximized our race, where the AI doesn't. The AI does not maximize their race. Now, in the dry, it's more straightforward. There's less happening tactically. I don't think the AI is necessarily making their pit stops at the right time. But if they pit and I pit 5 laps later, the overcut, undercut situation is a few seconds difference on track. Now, we've gained some positions that way. In the rain, the impact is more because of the state of how dry the track is or isn't at a given time. So pinpointing the exact moment, getting it just right, can have a much bigger impact. 15, 20 seconds instead of 2 to 3 seconds or 5 seconds, right? That it scales up in the wet than it does in the dry. So I'm making the right kind of tactical calls here and there more often than not in the dry and in the wet. But the impact is more when it's wet. And that's why we've been scoring a lot more points. I think the AI is fairly consistent, whether it's dry or wet, on the types of calls it makes and when it makes them. We're more on it than they are. And hence the results. But anyway, the overtaking, defending are certainly enough. It's that smoothness. Get that into the 60s, and I'm okay. I'm okay with him. We just wouldn't be able to push as much, and we can get him into the seat. But here's the thing. We're 5th in the points, and more importantly at the moment, for a comparison, because swap out doing for Albon, and this doesn't change. Other than we definitely wouldn't get the points. I think Albon's going to be a bit more consistent right now than Doohan would be getting into that seat. We saw with Pourchaire, felt like a learning curve as we put him in the seat. Pourchaire made a lot of mistakes. All we've put into was reactions. His drivability, his car control has remained the same. Totally unchanged. Yet he makes less mistakes now than when we first signed him. I think Doohan would do the same sort of thing. Be nice to get that out of the way, get him warmed up. Here's the thing. Albon, 7th in the points. There is 3-4 guys just behind him that can easily overtake him over these next 7 rounds. If that happens, here's the situation we're facing. We have a team rating. Constructors' results is going to get a net worth of points. The driver's results, and it's just based off of your top driver, is also going to come up with an evaluation. Being that we're in the top 10, there's going to be points. Albon is going to score something here, which is going to boost our team rating. Now, if he stops scoring and 2 or 3 or all 4 of those guys chasing Albon overtake him over the last 7 races, bump him out of the top 10, he's unlikely to score. And it's here. It's across the board here. It's this combination of team rating and how we perform that will add up to what our budget is for next year. I think the perfect time to make the switch to let Albon go is at the end of the season, and then bring Doohan on board and another young driver, cheap, to fill the void, and not necessarily give FP1 to, except for maybe an occasional thing, a couple times, handful of times per season, maybe 3 for each driver. I don't know. We'll figure that out. Depend on who it is and how excited I would be about them as a prospect. But the timing, you could say, okay, we've checked our boxes, we're ready to move on, but not quite. Not quite, because the budget for next year can still be greatly impacted over these last 7 races. And season 1, we did everything. We threw the book at raising that budget. by going through the facilities, and it wasn't the right call. The operations facilities did not have the budgetary impact. And so when I got to that January 1st and found out what does lead to that budgetary impact, it's that team rating, it's the constructor's position. It's, yes, a lot of your money comes from finishing fifth in the constructors, but it's the board evaluation of the team, which is that combination of factors, including that constructors, but also that drivers championship, that team rating piece. So to make that go up, we've got to hang on to Albon until the end of the season. Now, we can make that hard decision at the end of the year and swap and go for the two young guns who are the future of the program. And, some in the comments have also argued that, hey, maybe we need to just go for the, established driver, the somebody, up here that is available. By the way, I've been scouting throughout the last few months all of the top drivers. I haven't done Alonso because I know he's about to retire anyway. So I'll try to get him in, and you can see we're down into the mid 70s where we have our guys at, and even further down. So trying to avoid the older ones as I'm getting somebody established, getting somebody up and coming, and getting a total prospect as I'm scouting 3 at a time. But anyway, going above where we have Albon as an 82, right? And finding something up the ladder. Now, of course, there's not interested. First one that's open is Bottas. He's, 34. Not interested. Ocon. So Ocon is still the best upgrade that we could get in the here and now. And then Vettel is the only other one. So it's an Ocon or no one. Or, in this case, Doohan. Right? We've already got the guy in place. We're already making him level up quickly. We've already drastically improved that smoothness and will continue to do so. So it's Ocon or Doohan. So we could, theoretically, right at the end of the season, we could just see what it would cost to go in for an Ocon to get that upgrade, because next year we want to start competing, right? What was the next step? Compete for a championship. Not necessarily win one in year 3. Maybe it'll be a year 4 type thing. But be competitive. Good example this year would be Mercedes. Mercedes hasn't really been competing for the championship. They haven't looked at any stage like they were in it. And yet they're a few points off of Ferrari for second place. That you could argue that Mercedes has been in the championship bout. No. They've had podiums, but really it's only been a 2-car fight this year. Most years it's a 3-car fight. Right, and Mercedes has been on that edge, and a little bit more, or doing what they've done here in the later stage of the season. Earlier, if they had started that earlier in the year, they'd been able to get those upgrades before the break, 5 races sooner, 8 races sooner, where it was still fairly early in the season. To be at the stage they're at now, then yes. Right? They'd probably, they'd be firmly second with all the reliability issues, bad strategy calls that Ferrari's had. And yes, individual mistakes. Leclerc's had a few. Sainz has certainly had some, but it's not like Hamilton or Russell have been completely devoid of mistakes themselves this year. And it's certainly not like Perez and Verstappen have not made plenty of mistakes. I've been seeing a lot of commentary recently trying to blame Leclerc as the reason why Ferrari is not in this championship and why it's wrapped up. Yes, they've made mistakes, but come on. The Red Bulls made plenty of mistakes too. They have a car that is just astronomically better than any other car on the grid right now. And of course, exceeding the budget is one major way to do that. When that budget amounts, the excess budget amounts to nearly the research budget for an entire year. If you've exceeded by that much, you're doubling the research budget compared to everybody else by exceeding the budgetary cap. That's gonna, it's gonna lead to a better car in 2021 and in 2022 and beyond. Well, anyway, Ocon, definite option. Maybe we'll see what it would cost at the end of the year, right? Maybe we sit down, hammer out a negotiation or two. If it pushes too hard, too far, then we go to doing. And, go to the future. Albon's already, budget-wise, not in a good place. He's making $2.5 million more than what Ocon's making right now. Though our cost to break is not cheap at $4.5 million, but that'll go down by the end of the season quite a bit. But the big thing for Albon is not just the current salary, it's that bonus that he gets every week, because it's all the way down at 17th. I would imagine we can get Ocon lower. Certainly couldn't get worse. We know we're not going to be below 17th at any point. So that's $600,000 a race bonus times 22 all year long is a huge increase to what his overall salary is. And so you calculate that in. If Ocon's going to cost us the same or less, it seems like an obvious upgrade to make. You're younger, probably has a little more potential than Albon does, and is already better. Upgrade ready, side pods. Again, we're turning our focus to research, especially now. Now that we do have that competitive car, now that we are putting it into a place to maybe compete for that 456, we are definitely looking to next year's car for the rest of the year. We have one more where we just started a period for research, and we're going to spend half of our budget immediately because, well, it's a big research project that's going to take a long time, and we only have one more that's going to come into the window in just over a week's time. This is for the rear wing, and we're making pretty good progress on it. We're going to make gains in drag reduction, airflow sensitivity, and DRS delta. So all of those are going to have a positive net entering next year for the car. For the high speed, we're losing 0.07. We're going to gain 0.14. So we're actually doubling our gain in high speed sectors, but that's only a 10% loss. In the medium speed, we're losing 0.26. We're going to gain 0.29. So we are just covering off what we need from there. The low speed does have the largest drawback as a 30% decrease, but it's 0.39 is that decrease, and we're going to cover off 0.32. So we nearly have it covered in a single upgrade. That's pretty good. I'd say overall, our rear wing will be in as good of a state, if not slightly better, when you add in the areas that aren't impacted, the drag reduction, airflow sensitivity. You add in those performance gains, we're going to be looking at a rear wing that performs a little bit better for the beginning of next year, just from this one research project. I would hope before the end of the year we can get one more in as well on top of this, a secondary research project for next season. And again, all these projects that we're going to have, the gains we're going to have, we saw how much of an impact it had last year. In doing that, we went from a team that had barely eclipsed Aston Martin to be ninth best, and we were almost competing at the very back of the field, track specific, with certain teams that track specific were weak on that specific track, right? So we were just overcoming the back end of the field occasionally to a very competitive car with that back end, and over the course of the season, obviously competing even higher. That off-season gain, though, was pretty substantial, and that was through less research than the time we're putting in this year. Maybe similar. Well, I don't know. We'll see. But either way, can't see this going poorly for us. I can only see it being a good outcome and pushing us further up the grid. Maybe we're going to properly start getting into just off the front teams and pushing ahead of the midfield a little bit. That'd be nice. Last year's race at Zandvoort, Schumacher was the only DNF. The Aston Martins were 2 laps down, and then the McLarens and 1 AlphaTauri were a lap down. We got lead lap, finishing P10 and P12. So that was one of our 3 occasions that we got in the points. We had 4 points last season, was it? Fastest lap bonus and 3 times getting 10th place, something like that. Or did we only have 3 points and got there twice? So this was one of our best races of the year, and you could see why based on the track profile. One tight right-hander within the, and I don't think that's the banked one. The banked one is turn 3. It's not turn 12. So 11, 12 is the one slow section, which we're much better at that this year. Medium sections are now a strong suit for us, and all those fast sections through this track are definitely a good area. And there isn't any long straights, so your overall top speed does not matter anywhere near as much as it used to. Porsche getting much better with those reactions is definitely going to be putting in better times on that quick acceleration, out of all the corners. I think we could definitely be competing in the points this time. And with heavy rain expected on Sunday, we've been really lucking out this year on a lot of wet race weekends.
It's another historic weekend of Formula One here at Zandvoort. The track has seen many unforgettable moments, like Gilles Villeneuve's 3-wheeled lap at the 1979 Dutch Grand Prix, which cost him victory. What excitement lies ahead this year? There's never a dull moment at Circuit Zandvoort. It's fast, very fast, with long straights and wide curves. But it also features 2 heavy banked corners, where aerodynamic improvements are sure to help our drivers. This is it. We're down to the last few races of the season, and it's time for that final push. Who will be crowned champion at the end of it all? We'll find out soon enough. Stay right here, because we're just getting started.
Straight to Q1, second session. We've already got our banker laps in, P10, P12, and we are coming around the final corner to start our final lap. We are the last 2 cars out there, but we easily are within the time frame. Bottas out early and P20 and going to have a penalty. Is not expecting to do much, but he'll definitely get a better time here. It's only good enough to get up to P16. The Haas and Aston Martin cars are well off the pace, so I have a feeling we are already through, which is a good thing because we were taking a little bit of a risk here. I'm using the same set of tires that we've got our banker lap in on, thinking that we would have enough pace. So Magnussen, the Alfa Romeos, Sonoda, all behind us already, so we're safe. We are through to Q2, and we are getting ready to head out here in just a moment. Our first lap was good, P9, P10. Only one car had a time that was not quite representative, and that was Sainz. Sainz was held up behind Gasly on his lap, and we're getting ourselves out there here fairly early this time, near the back. Russell behind Albon, Sainz in between us, a little bit of space in front of us to Vettel, but that should be good setup for us. Sainz will definitely put in a better lap this time. He will not get held up. Magnussen should be about the right place, though it looks like he might have been held up, but I don't think he'll improve by much. That's one car we should be ahead of. Ricciardo off the pace compared to Norris, but it's very close between P7 and P13. Can we get ahead of the McLarens? Can we get ahead of the AlphaTauris? Can we get one car, maybe 2, into Q3? Big if. Laps are now underway. Let's go ahead and check in on those times. Guan Yu Zhou out on used tires, so that's good. Guan Yu Zhou should not improve based on that. Yeah, yellow, so there's one car that we're ahead of. Albin, Porsche, both good. Ocon, slow in Sector 1. Norris, slow in Sector 1. Sainz, slow in Sector 1. It was Sector 3 where he was held up big time, though. Ricardo goes ahead of Porsche, but not Albin. Zhou is behind us. Vettel goes in between as well. And it looks like Magnussen has improved to P14 for now. So there's 2 cars behind Porsche, 2 cars behind Albin. Albin's going to be clear. He'll get through. Porsche was yellow in Sector 2. He just crossed the line. We'll see if he improves that time or if he stays put. He stays put. Albin is P8. Oof, nice lap for him. And there you go. Perez is already done. Verstappen, purple in all 3 sectors. But that'll be a P13 for Porsche. Albin will get one more shot with Q3. By the way, there was only a 1/10 of a second between Albin in 8th place and Guan Yu Zhou in 14th. That was very, very tight. Porsche, a 1/10 away from easily making it to Q3. Gasly, not much better in the Alpine, a 10th better. Ocon was just off his pace. I mean, he barely missed out by a 1/10 of a second himself. But that's how tight this midfield is right now. Q3, banker lap on used tires for Albin. Good enough for P7, ahead of Norris, Ocon, and Gasly, and not far behind Leclerc, whose time was probably a bit underrepresentative of what it could actually be, considering he was slower than Sainz. But as we have 1 lap left to go here in qualifying, see if we can't hang on to a P7. I don't expect to, even though Leclerc was a little off the pace, I don't expect to catch up to the big 3. But if we can stay ahead of really any of the 3 cars behind us, it would be a success. If we could stay ahead of all 3 of them, it would be a tremendous qualifying here for Albin. Riding on board with Albin as he prepares to start his flying lap, coming around to the start-finish line. Okay, fresh tires. Wow, he's the only one with a fresh set on. Oh, everybody else is reusing the same set again. This could be good if Albin gets a good run here. Let's go around turn 3, all over the place though as he navigates around turn 3. Everybody green in Sector 1 except for Sainz, Verstappen, Perez also slow. Albin slow, Sector 1. That was not good. Fresh tires, and he is off the pace. But Norris and Ocon also slow in Sector 2. Sainz slow in both Sector 1 and 2, but it's only Leclerc of the... Well, Albin, this was your chance, buddy. Norris does not improve. Ocon does not improve. Gasly does. It's going to be a P8 starting position. Verstappen, purple in Sector 3, but otherwise everybody off the pace. Nobody improving here. Leclerc does. He gets up to P4. Hamilton, Russell already done with their laps. They were the first ones out. Should have just headed back into the pits there, but... Oh, Albin, good on Sector 3 at least. But that was a terrible lap. That was the worst qualifying lap I think we have seen in this game yet. Good thing we only dropped 1 position, I suppose. So that'll be a P8, P13 for our guys, and we are expecting rain on Sunday.
It's time for the final touches here on the grid, ahead of today's race.
Qualifying went well for Williams, as attested by their strong position on the grid. Now it's all about finding that edge for the race itself. Not a great performance from Alfa Romeo during qualifying. However, anything can happen during the race. Let's see if they can push on and get a good result. And the sky is looking grey and cloudy today. An effective tyre strategy could prove very valuable as the race plays out.
So let's see how the teams tackle this race today here at the Dutch Grand Prix.
In another one of those hard to read situations in terms of the track, we're looking at rain coming very early between laps like 3 and 5, and very quickly, somewhere around lap 4, getting to ready for intermediates. So that means full attack on the softs at the start of the race, pushing for just a few laps and then pitting very quickly. But then how much rain is that? I actually pulled up my video from last episode to see for comparison. My guess is we're looking at 2 to 3 millimeters worth of rain on the track throughout. Maybe getting just dry enough here in this stretch to come out on the softs for a handful of laps or stay out and suffer a little bit longer. It's going to be iffy on how dry, because it's going to gradually dry for a while. So, lap 45 is when it's expected to pick up again. Lap 46 by time you need to be back on the intermediates. If it dries up enough by, lap 38 or so, you could 7 laps of running on the soft flat out could gain you enough time to more than make up for the pit stop. So that'll be something to keep an eye on in this race. But other than that, it looks like intermediates for the whole race. So we're going to assume it stays wet enough and that it's only a lap or two of getting dry to the point of wanting to switch and not switching. But we'll see. We saw with the Ferraris last time, you can lose tons and tons of positions by not pitting. So I've got a plan B in place here that's going to involve pushing if we see that the track is drying out fairly rapidly, and then switching to the softs, pushing on those for roughly 7 laps. Before the rain really intensifies, it's still going to gradually pick up according to the forecast and get back to wet. It's just how soon, when does that transition happen? But if we can get 7 or 8 laps on those softs in dry enough conditions, there is the chance to gain a lot of time or lose a lot of time. So this is going to be a pretty iffy situation, but once you do switch back, you can just about make those intermediates last till the end, and you just got to make sure not to push. So it's going to be that second stint where all is to happen. We know flat out at the beginning, and then intermediates, and the intermediates are going to go for just about the whole race. It's just that one little window that this time could be that decisive moment of the race.
It's a somewhat overcast day for the drivers, who've now taken position on the grid. Here we have Alexander Albon. They might not be in the top 3 spots, but things could change fast once the race gets underway. And looking at the second Williams car, with their starting position in the back 10, they'll have their work cut out for them. Will their hard work pay off today? Here we go. It's the Dutch Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
Feeling a little bit like a driver myself as we get started on this race. We're going to be looking to go forward here at the beginning with both cars aggressive and set it to high. Okay, fine. Don't listen to me.
Let's close this gap.
We did not get off the line the way we wanted to, but there you go. We're into it now. Thought I had already preset that, but hey, it's been a while. In fact, it's been a couple of hours since I recorded qualifying, as I actually just made a load to the recycling center. So I'm feeling a little bit like a driver right now, as in it's a workout. It's a workout. Unloading sod at the recycling center, bit of a process, and reloading the next load. But not taking it just yet. Well, anyway, P7, P12, not as fast off the line as we would have hoped for, obviously, as misinterpreted whether I had already taken care of this or not. Why are you seeing issues? Oh, that's just the pit window. Yeah. That's just pit window. Well, at least we have held position off the start. It would be nice if we can go forward a little bit here. We've got some heavy traffic. Field's going to be really tight by the time we get this first pit stop. And this first pit stop is going to be very important on timing, on track position afterward, as bunched up as the field is. We are going to be at a great disadvantage because of our pit box location, that anybody behind us could theoretically hold us up, and we can lose multiple positions, as Pourchaire has gone through one and goes through another, and that's going to be P10 for him.
It's a good job.
And Albin also up to P6 as he gets around Gasly into that best of the rest position. Other than Hamilton way down in P19, who had multiple penalties for new parts. Anybody else out of position greatly? Really going to show a little bit further down on penalties, but otherwise the field is ultimately where they would be trying to run. Now, our thing, and we are going to continue to push on for now, especially with Albin. Pourchaire, let's go ahead and go balanced on the fuel. Try to make some overtakes with this. Go ahead and go hardest otherwise. As you're behind your teammate, we're going to be double stacking almost certainly. So let that gap exist. What is that gap anyway? Pourchaire 4.4. We're 2.5 seconds behind. So right now we have just about the requisite for a double stack. So we're going to go light on fuel and we're going to go hardest, but pushing on the tires. And hopefully we can push just about hard enough to hold the position we now have, which is P10, while Albin continues to try to go forward. We've gone around Sainz. That is up to P5.
We want to leave court, please.
Let's go ahead and see that one. You're not going to see that every day with an overtake on the Ferraris in regular conditions. It's just being aggressive. Side by side through a few corners and then hit and move.
They take advantage.
Still side by side. Got a chance here, but without the ERS. And oh, there's the rain. There is the rain.
I think the rain's coming down.
3 already. We're about to make it lap 4. It's definitely not time to pit yet, but it looks like it's coming down pretty hard, pretty fast. Maybe we want to get Pourchaire in right now. I don't think we have enough time with Albin to make that call, but Pourchaire, that few seconds back, yeah, that is coming down pretty fast. I think it would be a wise move to get Pourchaire in right now because it's coming down heavy. Track is, I think we should get both in right now. Right now. By the time we get into the pits, it's going to be probably 0.6, 0.7. By the time you're coming off pit road, it should be at about 1.0. And if we do it right now, before the whole field decides to make that call. All right, here we go, folks. Already, as we round that corner, 0.4. Wow, look at that gap behind us. We are the first to dive into the pits. And the second to dive into the pits. Nobody else has gone yet. There you go. Already 0.7. Already 0.7. And no issues on track. 0.9. Now the big question is, are we right by going to intermediates? Or is it going to be more of a wet compound day? So 2.596, 2.478. Really good stop. Double stack also works out for us. And we're in and out. Track is now in those wet conditions, and we are the first. Going aggressive, going balanced, going neutral.
Yep, copy.
While track position is a thing. And already yellow flag sector 1, somebody having an issue. Is it us? No. It's not us. It was Pourchaire.
Let's take a look at the replay.
Turn 2. Just coming out of the pits. He runs wide. But the big ask, the big question is, have we made the right call on the intermediates? Right now, that's the only issue. I was hoping the water would settle at 2 to 3 in the millimeters. It is slowing down on the increase. onto the attack. Come on. These guys have not pit. That means we are up front, are we not? We are the first one on the intermediates, but you have a mixed bag. You have a mixed bag. Some of the field going for full wets, some for the intermediates. Are we going to be hovering in between? It is settling just on the side of intermediates. 3.84. Cars in front of us are all on dry compounds and holding us up. And here comes Verstappen past Porsche. Both cars sliding on past. Guan Yu Zhou there.
Nice work.
And continuing forward. 3.77. Rain has settled. Hopefully, we'll stay below 4.0.
And there's an overtake from
Up to the next ones. Last corner. Last corner, so we will be taking off into free air here in a moment. Not with as much of a gain as we would have hoped. We didn't get held up in the pits. We got held up by cars crawling around the track and not getting out of the way. But there you go. That is into P1 and P2. But now the big ask is, who's got the right call? Is it the intermediates? Is it the wets? Balanced. We've got to get that fuel under control.
Yep,
Neutral. And aggressive for a little bit. We will have to back off to normal to make these tires last a while. Track is drying 3.5. There's the advantage to Verstappen. And are those on the full wets going to be slower? I think they probably are. Are they going to have to pit again? We'll see. .8 right
and a
now.
new position just gained by Williams.
We're looking at 4 more minutes of conditions like this before we expect it to intensify. And you can see Albon is now driving away from Verstappen. So we are on the right tires, the right compound at the right time. We made the right call by going to the intermediates, even though it was hovering in between there for a while. First stint on intermediates, right call. No flag, sector 1. Schumacher is off.
Okay.
He's already back grid. You see those on the wet compound are going backwards.
I think that
slowly
was a
but
crash.
surely. Okay, our gap. 8 seconds in between. Verstappen pitting to put on intermediates, you would think. Even though the rain is about to come. The rain is about to come. He's on the right compound, and he and Vettel are both pitting. They're at the right compound here. Ooh, actually, you know what? It held off a little longer. We've got 2 minutes. 2 minutes till the rain is going to pick up. So we've got maybe 3 minutes until, yeah, like I said, lap 19. Just behind Porsche. But otherwise, 8-second gap. Albon in the race lead. Ricciardo at 12.5 back. Magnussen at 15.9. And, you know, I mean, look who it is that's behind us. Here's the main competitors. Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Russell, Hamilton. So many of them going backwards because they're still on the wet compound waiting. Russell and Hamilton, the only ones on the wets, but you can see that they just go backwards. Everybody's on the intermediates now. The rain has intensified a little bit, but just gradually, 2.6. And it looks like it's going to stay light for a while yet. So lap 21 means we are pushing these tires a bit harder than we were expecting. But when was I? Let's see, 23 laps from so 27, lap 28 is when we were looking to make our first stop of the day. So we are getting pretty close to our pit window
That's
here.
a good overtake from Alpine.
Gasly has overtaken Porsche. Alpine is faster than what we have, but so far the strategy call has put us in the better spot. But we are almost right there with them pace-wise. Here's our first huge strategy call. Now we're in clean air, so we had no issues in pit. 2.6 and 2.5 our stop time, and we're going to come out in P5 and P6. And there we go. So P5, P6 for now. Ricciardo, Verstappen, Magnussen, Gasly ahead of us. Verstappen and Ricciardo on the full wets. They have an advantage for now. Gasly and Magnussen have not pit. Everybody in the top 9, other than those two, have. Ocon, Tsunoda going backwards. Russell and Hamilton, who stayed on the wets this whole time, did not make the right call there, as they're going to have to pit soon anyway. The track is nearly down to damp conditions, but the wets definitely have an advantage right now. But not much longer. Verstappen got around Magnussen. I'm waiting until we drop below 4 to push.
A
I don't
position
want to push
gained
while
for
we're...
Alfa
Alonso
Romeo.
gets around Porsche. So we are losing a little bit of ground right now. But I just don't think it's going to last for long. Can't count the last lap yet until we cross the finish line. And we're back to damp conditions. There you go. Let's see where our lap time was at for this lap. How much time did we lose? As Ricciardo pits, is he going to put on full wets? Alonso pits as well. Are they switching back to the intermediates? Well, there goes by. We were... second
Keep
faster
going
than
on.
Magnussen. We were 2 seconds faster than those on the wets.
Ferrari advance the race
So we were
position.
2 seconds off the pace that time. Okay. Alonso back to the intermediates. Ricciardo back to the intermediates. So they're all pitting right back. They might have gained 2 seconds per lap over a 4 or 5 lap stretch there, but then they're gonna have to switch right back to the intermediates. So 2 seconds a lap over 5 laps is 10 seconds, but you're losing more than that on pit road. So I've got Albon stretching just in case. And there, no pit. This was all about the dry. This was a pit stop for the dry. I've got them both on the... I've got the 2 different tactics. So this was about where we were expecting it to dry out, but now the rain intensifies a little bit, making the track wet again. So Porsche, ease off. We have 1 stop left for intermediates. We're going to bypass. We are going to bypass the soft compound. Alright, so we are now planning... Oh, and then the track might dry after all. The new plan is to go to lap 50 on these tires. Gasly into the pits. Magnussen will probably soon follow. And there is Albon into the race lead. Gasly coming back out. Pourchaire is past him into P3. Magnussen into the pits as well. So that's P1, P3 with Verstappen in between. Verstappen's still going to be a favorite here in this race. Pourchaire a little bit more on the tire wear than Albon at this stage. Gasly, full wets. Gasly just came back out on full wets. He's going to go backwards. It's way too dry for that. Better weather forecasters than what we have. But we'll see if in 1 minute the track begins to dry out. Neither car pushing right now, so that's what we want. P1, P3, Verstappen very much down the middle. 3 cars diving into the pits for full wets. That'll be a good test as these guys have already caught Gasly. He's holding them up. 2/10 there. A 10th.
Alpine just advanced.
Gasly gets around Pourchaire. That's half a second Ricciardo's gained. That's 1 second Ricciardo has gained. In less than a lap, he's gained a second. But 1 minute, and the rain will decrease. He's only gaining a second and a half per lap. And we're going to soon get back into the right range. It's definitely not worth the 20-something seconds they're going to lose by having to turn around and pit again. Nope. Still on the edge. Still on the edge. Gasly was hovering at 9. Albon opens up and instantly pulls out nearly half a second. Gasly's also been caught by a car behind there. Fuel's almost back where it needs to be. Lap 50. Just 22 to go. And this one final stop. Track nearly to wet conditions, but it's not going to last. It's not going to last. It's going to ease off. But we are going to hover in between a little bit here and there. So it could yo-yo some. 2.6 for Albon. Now with Pourchaire, you can see just how far behind he is. Albon already back on the track before Pourchaire gets anywhere near the box. 2.6 for him as well. And that's it, folks. We are done with pit stops for the day. This should get us to the end. And we now stand in P2 and P4. Pourchaire, traffic behind him. 3 cars close. Alonso into the pits.
Low fuel, so be mindful of that.
Pourchaire level on fuel
Mercedes
now.
moved up a place.
But Russell has overtaken him as well, so the 2 Mercedes clawing their way back up the field. Wet compound has definitely been the way to go for the last little bit, but everybody else is going to have to make that pit stop soon. That should be it for the heavy, well, maybe. Alonso still not out of the pits as Verstappen goes past. Alonso back up on the intermediates. Magnussen into the pits. So here you go. It's the crossover point. The wets making the switch back to the intermediates. They gained. They absolutely gained. What is our gap to Gasly? 10 seconds. 10 seconds Gasly has pulled out. That's it. Just 10. He's going to lose a lot more than that in the pits. But it's going to be pretty close at 20 behind. 10 seconds clear the Ferraris. 5 seconds clear of Perez in the Red Bull, and then Magnussen, Ocon just behind. I think he should be okay. Have enough pace to hold those two off. He's close to Ricardo. Ricardo did eventually get by. Definitely not the pace of the Mercedes. However, they're going to have to pit. So Pourchaire is going to move back up 2 spots. Ocon behind on the full wets. As long as the rain doesn't go crazy, we should be able to pull away from him, and he'll hold up Perez for a while. So that Pourchaire should battle Ricardo for P4, P5. But track just under 3. No more heavy rain expected. Albon back to neutral.
That sounds like someone's gone wide there.
Vettel runs wide. Russell pits. Ocon pits. And that's going to bring everybody onto the intermediates, probably for the remainder of the race. We now run P2, P5, but Ricardo has pulled away quite a bit there. Almost 2 seconds behind him. So Albon 3 seconds behind Verstappen, but we have a 6-second advantage over Gasly. Somebody has crashed. Safety car. No pit stops. No pit stops. We are not pitting.
Safety car.
Track position.
DRS is currently disabled.
Sonoda crash on turn 1. Sonoda out of the race. Dropping down the order here. Will this get us to the end of the race? Not sure if it'll get us quite to the end. We might have 2 or 3 laps left of running. I want to wait until we catch up, and let's go standard.
Okay, back off.
I want to wait till we catch up to save fuel and fill up the battery. And there you go. We are resuming racing with a lot of the field not bunched up. Really just the first end, but Pourchaire is going backwards. Pourchaire is going backwards. He's down to P7. He's lost 2 positions here, but he's going to recover to P6 anyway. And he's going to recover now. Nope. That was a blue flag situation. Blue flag situation. And, woo, big yo-yo situation. Pourchaire, though.
Yep, the overtake.
Pourchaire very much going backwards. Back to neutral. He has the fuel pushed to get on, but he loses 3 seconds. Perez flew through. So we had an Aston Martin stopping in the middle of the road ahead of us. But you can see a lot of the field has not bunched up. Hamilton is still a couple seconds behind. Russell is still 6 seconds behind. I think we got bunched up to about P9, but then getting past the Aston Martin didn't happen. So they resumed racing here pretty quickly. And we are very much putting Verstappen under pressure right now. We're going to have to go neutral, though, as the ERS has already been drained. It is nowhere near full. We did our catch-up, but that was a very quick. It's lap 69, about to be lap 70. We have 3 laps to go.
Currently 3 laps remaining of the race.
We are able to put Verstappen under pressure. So this race is not done yet, but I really don't want to make a mistake either. See if we can get up beside him. Pourchaire losing 1 position at the start. Something happened with somebody with blue flags, and Pourchaire was on the wrong line with somebody who slowed down and quickly dropped 2 positions, but recovered 1 of those, fortunately. Gasly already well off behind, but we've got to hope that Albon can keep it clean here if he's going to have a look at Verstappen. I don't think I want to drive too aggressively with either. I don't want to lose what we have. I don't want to risk what we have to try for, say, the race win. And go full attack. I think 1, we're too far back. 2, Verstappen has too much pace. 3. We run the risk of making a mistake. Final lap.
And this will be the last lap coming up.
Final lap.
Yes, okay.
Standard. What you got?
Grease,
For
lifting
share?
coast.
Yeah, he's still
Okay.
in clean air in between here. That's a win for Verstappen and a P2 for Albon. Gasly 3. Comes Perez and Ricciardo. There is Pourchaire ahead of Magnussen and Hamilton back here. Sainz
Thank you, everyone.
and Russell rounding out the
Copy,
points.
nice job.
Almost a reverse grid there
Going
outside
up.
of Verstappen, as most of the favorites were back at the
Okay,
edge of
second
the
flag.
points today. Leclerc, fastest lap, but only a P11 for him. Ocon, P12. Norris is going to finish P13. Last car on track to finish. And only one DNF today. So for us to have both cars in the points, both cars well up the order, and strategy-wise, there was so many different directions you could go. The wets, never quite long enough.
What a
the
pleasure it
right
was to watch
tire.
Alex Albon on the track.
Never
and
quite
an
long
amazing
enough.
result to match.
The intermediates were just about right. We made the right call, and we benefited from it. But there was a lot of back and forth between which was the right compound to be on. So there was a lot of strategy
Imagine how
calls to make
tough they
there.
must
Two
be.
teams got it
A
right.
podium is a real feat, and it's been accomplished in style.
Gasly did do the wets, but ultimately got it right. Red Bull got it right with Verstappen for sure. And yeah, that's a good result. Another podium for us. Not a race win, but Albon back-to-back
It's the former Red Bull
P2
Junior
finishes.
team driver who continues to fly high.
His first race win is still eluding him, but it may come. This is probably his final season with us. He's running
You've
out
got
of
to
chances
say it was
here.
a solid
I don't know
drive
how many
from all three of them up
more
there.
podiums
A
he's going to grab in
fantastic
these last,
showcase
what,
for
6 more
Formula
races
One.
to go. That is going to do it for this
Very
episode, though, of
impressive
Decathlon
showing
River.
today for Williams.
Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next
That's right,
time.
they've made
Have a
some
good one.
fine
Be safe out there.
strategic decisions here,
Bye for now.
And it's brilliant to see them pay off.